Hey, what is going on, you snack and Sableye? Today, I'm breaking down my new and updated Mew VMAX list for you guys. I did actually just use it to win a tournament the other day. I'm playing in tournaments again over on the live stream, twitch.tv/AzulGG. I stream every day except Mondays. First link in the description, give it a click, give it a follow. Now that I'm back on PTCGO, I can play in tournaments again because all the tournaments on the Limitless platform were run on PTCGO. So now I can play in tournaments again. So if you want to catch some of that tournament action, be sure to go check out the live stream or check out the second YouTube channel. There's a link for that in the description as well, as AzulGG2, where I'll be posting a ton of footage from the Twitch channel, including some games from my tournament runs. And actually from the tournament run that I got first in with this Mew VMAX list, I posted some games already over there on that second YouTube channel. So if you guys want to see some gameplay with the Mew VMAX deck, go check out the second YouTube channel. All right, I think that's all I got to say. So let's go ahead. Let's take a look at this build. So if you've been living under a rock for the last, couple months or quite a few months, I have no idea what Mew VMAX does. I'm going to break that down real fast for you guys. So Mew VMAX has that cross fusion strike and the max miracle for the double psychic. So generally the main attackers in this deck will be the Mew VMAX with the cross fusion strike, which we use to copy the Genesec's attack in the Techno Blast, or the Meloetta's attack in the Melodious Echo. Speaking of Meloetta, that is the secondary attacker in this deck, the Melodious Echo from the Meloetta. 70 damage for each fusion strike energy in play, which we accelerate into play by attaching for turn or using the supporter Elesa's Sparkle, which can search our deck for up to 2 fusion strike energy and put them onto our fusion strike Pokemon. So yeah, main attackers, Mew VMAX and the Meloetta, and then the draw power in the deck, of course, is the Genesect with the Fusion Strike system, which draws a card for each, or draws up to as many Fusion Strike Pokemon as we have in play. Draw that many cards up into our hand. So I mean, if we have 2 cards in hand and we have 5 Fusion Strike Pokemon in play, we draw 3 Fusion Strike cards. That's how its ability works. And we can use as many of those as we want for each Genesect we have in play, or we can use 1 for each Genesect that we have in play each turn. And then of course, last Pokemon in the deck is the Oricorio, which isn't really an attacker, but we use it as kind of a support Pokemon in there with the Lesson in Zeal, which reduces the damage our Fusion Strike Pokemon take by 20. This is very important in the Rapid Strike Malamar matchup, and can be pretty important in the mirror match as well. So up against Rapid Strike Malamar, we've got like a Mew VMAX in our active, and we have the Oricorio on the bench. Instead of 8 Rapid Strike cards, they now need that 9th Rapid Strike card, which can be a huge difference between them getting a knockout on a Mew VMAX or not. So Oricorio is super important there. And then also in the mirror match, if our opponent is attacking with a Mew VMAX with a DTE, and we have Oricorio in play, all of a sudden they need a damage modifier to KO Genesec's. Or if they're trying to one-hit KO our Mew VMAX, which is what we generally try and do in the mirror match, is try and force our opponent to have to one-hit KO Mew VMAX to stay on tempo in the prize trade. If we have Oricorio in play and they have a DTE, for them to actually get a one-hit KO on a Mew VMAX, they would need a Choice Belt and 4 Power Tablet copying Techno Blast, so that can be really tough for them to do. So Oricorio is a great support Pokemon in a couple matchups there. And then getting into the rest of the list, the first thing we'll take a look at here is I do play 2 Escape Rope and 1 Switch. Mew in general has been playing 4 Switch cards lately, but if you can get away with 3, why wouldn't you want to? And throughout my tournament runs recently with the deck, including the one where I won the tournament, 3 Switch felt pretty fine. 3 Switch cards. Now we only play 1 Switch and 2 Escape Rope. Now that's the number one thing I'm trying to figure out. Do I prefer 2 Escape Rope or 2 Switch? And so far I've been liking the 2 Escape Rope a little bit more, but I also have been playing with 2 Escape Rope and not 2 Switch, so it definitely is still hard to tell, but I am leaning towards the 2 Escape Rope over the 2 Switch as of right now. But I don't know, I could definitely see myself switching back the other way to 2 Switch, 1 Escape Rope. But those early game plays where your opponent goes first and then you go second and you get off a turn 1 attack through the Elsa Sparkle with a Melodious Echo, or even a Psychic Leap on the Mew V sometimes, when you get off that turn 1 attack, the Escape Rope can be a pretty big difference between getting an almost irrelevant KO to a super relevant KO. So that's why I do like the 2 Escape Rope, because that's like one of the biggest strengths of Mew, is having that option of an attack on that first turn. No deck really can attack on the first turn going second for something super impactful the way Mew can. So taking the biggest advantage of that kind of potential attack by having, a second Escape Rope in the deck, which means you're going to see it that much more often, is why I kind of have been leaning towards 2 Escape Rope over 2 Switch for right now. But I could definitely see myself going to 2 Switch, 1 Escape Rope, or going up to 2 Switch, 2 Escape Rope, and cutting something else to add another Switch card to the deck. 4 Power Tablet, of course, as the damage buff for our Fusion Strike attacks, plus 30 damage from our Fusion Strike Pokemon per tablet, for Rotom Phone, and for Cramomatic. Now, I used to be a fan of Cram-O-Matic over Rotom Phone, but as of late, I've become a bigger fan of Rotom Phone over Cram-O-Matic. In this list, I do have 4 of both, but I think if I was going to start to cut one over the other, I would actually start to cut Cram-O-Matic first and keep my Rotom Phones at 4. I was kind of in the other boat a little while ago where I felt like I like cutting Rotom Phone before Cram-O-Matic, but in this list I've come to 4 of each, which is kind of the best of both worlds. I got 4 Rotom Phone, 4 Cram-O-Matic to help us consistently find what we want to do, you know, on our turns. With those, I've got for stadiums 3 Rose Tower. Now, I've been favoring the Rose Towers over the Tower of Darkness. I think Tower of Darkness isn't terrible, but I do think they draw about the same amount of cards each game, except the cards you draw off of Rose Tower are way more impactful than the cards you draw off of the Tower of Darkness. With the Rose Tower, in your early turns, you can usually get down to, you know, 2 or 1 or 0 cards in the hand, and then you're drawing 3 cards, and that could be the difference between you playing the game or not being able to play the game that turn or the next turn or so on and so forth. Whereas Tower of Darkness, to draw any cards, you need 2 of the stadiums in the hand, so it's a lot more that you need initially to get going, and potentially being able to even see some cards that would make the difference between you not being able to play the game from you being able to play the game or not. Like, I've very often gotten to 0 cards in hand, use Rose Tower for 3, draw into a battle VIP pass, or another way to get like a Genesect, and then start drawing more cards from there. But with the Tower of Darkness, you would need 2 Tower of Darkness in the hand to be able to draw those 2 cards, and that would be probably and give you a similar amount of cards that you'd get from a Rose Tower. But you need that second of Tower of Darkness in the hand. And I've also been liking just kind of going with 3 stadiums as of late, because there's really not that much Path to the Peak in the format. Of course, there's Jolteon that plays 4, but no other deck really plays 4 Path to the Peak right now. But I could definitely see myself going up, once again, I could see myself going up to 4 Switch cards. I could see myself going up to 4 stadiums as well. And if I went up to a 4th, I might go to the Tower of Darkness over the Rose Towers, but as long as I'm feeling comfortable with 3, definitely gonna stick with the Rose Towers over the Tower of Darkness. One thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about the Pokemon, I only run 2 Mew VMAX, and that's because you really only need 1, maybe 2 Mew VMAX for pretty much most, if not all, games. You never need a 3rd Mew VMAX, almost ever, unless you were to discard one of your ones early on, which is one of the risks of running 2, especially in those early hands where you need to use Ultra Ball or Quick Ball to find Pokemon. Sometimes you have to discard, you know, cards you don't want to discard, and then when you have 3 Mew VMAX in the deck, and you're probably gonna need 2 throughout a game, you know, then you can discard one of them because you have the other 2 to work with throughout the rest of the game. But when you only play 2, don't really want to discard it. Of course, you're less likely to see it in your opening hand when you play 1 less, and the prizing could potentially hurt you a little bit more. But like I said, a lot of games you only need 1 Mew VMAX anyways, and the games, by the time you would need the second one, if it is prized, you probably have drawn enough prize cards to have found it, so it's really not that big of a deal. Prize cards aren't that big of a deal for it. The thing that I found that can potentially hurt you is just opening it within that opening hand, and then, you know, you need to play a Quick Ball and Ultra Ball, and now it can no longer be a viable target for that, which can kind of hurt, of course. So thought I would mention that. Next card up is the Echoing Horn. So Echoing Horn, I think, is super good against Arceus decks in general, specifically Arceus Duraludon. It is extremely good against Arceus Duraludon, but that is not as popular of a deck anymore. And I did play against a couple in the tournament I played against, and used it to pretty good effect, but it's really good against Arceus decks in general. And Arceus Duraludon is definitely a deck that I don't think is in the best shape or the best spot in the meta right now, so I don't expect it to get much more popular or even maintain its popularity. If anything, I think it'll get less popular, and we'll see people start to pick up other Arceus variants, which Echoing Horn is still good against, but not as good. And it's not one of those things like up against Arceus Duraludon, you'll use Echoing Horn every game if you can find it, but up against Arceus Inteleon, you're not going to use it every game, even if you can find it. So yeah, I'm not as hype on the Echoing Horn right now. It's still in here, and I use it to some pretty good effect throughout my tournament run, but that's definitely the card that's kind of on the chopping block. So if you guys are looking to add anything else to this list, if you have like a card you like including in Mew, or you want to go up to 4 Stadium or 4 Switch cards or whatever, I would definitely say cutting the Echoing Horn is probably fine right now. 4 Quick Ball, 4 Ultra Ball, 4 Battle VIP Pass. I think it's just kind of the way, the engine to play Mew with right now. There's no reason to really play it any other way. You could add Fog Crystals on top of this. Definitely not necessary, but I don't think there's anything else to add besides these Pokemon search cards. I think you'll be more than fine with just these. You could play some different ones, but it's probably all you need. One of Choice Belt in here as another damage modifier, and then the other tool card I play is actually the Tool Jammer. So I want to give a shout out to Fabrizio, who made top 4 or 8 at Sao Paulo Regionals for this idea, the idea of the Tool Jammer and the Marnie, but I'll talk about the Marnie in a little bit. The Tool Jammer, when attached to our Pokemon, shuts off our opponent's tool cards. So it can be good in a couple situations. Now we don't play a second choice belt like I normally played in here before, so we potentially miss out on some damage because of that. And the matchup that can be specifically annoying against is actually the Arceus and Teleon matchup, where they have the big charms on the Arceus and make those Arceus really big, and they can be hard to KO. But the Tool Jammer effectively acts as a choice belt in that matchup, because if we had the choice belt on our Mew, we'd be doing 30 more damage, but if we have the Tool Jammer on our Mew, we're taking away that 30 extra HP that the big charm gives. So it effectively does the same thing up against the Arceus deck. In other matchups, of course, it's not going to quite have that same effect, and even in that matchup, they need to have the big charm. The one play I really like it against is actually in the mirror match, shutting down the opposing Mew VMAX's choice belts, making it harder for them to get the one-hit KO on your Mew VMAX. Because the mirror match is all about forcing your opponent to one-hit KO your Mew VMAX, and your game plan is usually to try and have an option to one-hit KO their Mew VMAX. So if you have the Tool Jammer, on your only Mew VMAX in play, and let's say they have 3 prize cards left, it's going to be that much harder, or maybe even impossible, for them to actually get the KO on your Mew VMAX. So that's the play I really like it for. Overall is the mirror match play, but it is pretty solid also up against the Arceus decks with their big charms, or sometimes even Capes of Toughness we've been seeing in some Arceus builds as well. So it's really good against those decks for sure. Talked about the Ultra Ball, talked about the Battle VIP Pass. The Marnie, next card to kind of mention here. Now, this idea does come from Fabrizio as well. Fabrizio played a judge in their Mew to their top 8, top 4 finish. I forget if they got top 8 or top 4. I think it was top 4 to their top 4 finish at Sao Paulo Regionals. But I think Marnie is pretty much better in every single way. There's no real reason you'd ever want to shuffle your opponent's deck, as opposed to just taking the cards in their hand and putting them on the bottom and then giving them 4 new cards off the top, because you're generally looking to disrupt their hand, which means whatever they have in their hand, you don't want them to have in their hand. So if it goes to the bottom of their deck, they can't draw into it unless they have like a 1-card deck, and then they'll draw some of them. And then, whereas with the judge, it shuffles those cards into the deck, and then they draw 4 new cards, and some of those could be the cards that they had in their hand. So I've decided to go with a Marnie instead, and the Marnie's been pretty solid actually for way more reasons than that. The main matchup you'd want to pull that play off against is up against the Inteleon decks that run Baby Moltres, because then with the Baby Moltres, they'd like to build up hands throughout the game with their shady dealings and set up for big Baby Moltres plays. But if you Marnie all that back into the deck, they have to try and draw into, a whole new play off of 4 cards off the top deck plus their draw for turn. So it can make it a lot harder for them to pull off those Baby Moltres plays when you Marnie them. That's the main matchup that I wanted to include it for, but I found it to be really useful against a bunch of other situations and a bunch of other matchups. Sometimes your hand just gets clogged up and you just want to see fresh cards, and you're content with not using Boss or Elsa Sparkle for the turn. Sometimes you're up against a Path to the Peak, and then it gives you something to do while your opponent has a Path to the Peak in play, so it's really good up against that. So the Marnie overall has been really, really solid, and I think I'm going to keep it around for a while, because there's a ton of situations outside of that one situation up against those Baby Moltres and Teleon decks where it really is pretty good. The 3 Elsa Sparkle and then the 3 Boss are the other supporters in the list. Of course, this is kind of just a staple in Mew at this point. If you're not running catchers, you're always running 4 or always running 3 Boss, and you pretty much just always play 3 Elsa Sparkle, because not only is it good on that first turn of the game going second, but later turns down the line, you're going to probably want one at some point to threaten like a Quad Fusion Strike energy play, or just to get energy in play to attack with. And then if you really don't need them throughout a game, you can always discard them with Ultra Ball or Quick Ball, but you want to make sure you have enough of them in the deck so you can see it often enough to be able to pull off those play. And 3 has just felt pretty good, pretty consistently for a while now, so nothing really special about playing 3 Elsa Sparkle. And then the last thing is the energies of 3 DTE and 4 Fusion Strike energy, and I don't really think there's a reason to play the basic energy. The more I used to kind of be a fan of the one of basic energy for the Rapid Strike Malamar matchup, but the more I've played the matchup, the more I find it to be unnecessary. And I think you can pretty much just get away with the DTE plus the Fusion Strike energy package. You don't really need basic energy unless a ton of special energy hate all of a sudden shows up out of nowhere. Then I don't think you really need to worry about that, and you just playing the full special energy with the DTEs and the Fusion Strike energy is all you really need. And that's the 60 I've been playing recently for Mew. Like I said, I won that tournament the other day, and it's felt great. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, enjoy the content, be sure as always to subscribe and hit the bell, and I'll see you soon.